Call the Finance Committee meeting to order. Everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Approve claims in the amount of $545,676.
Move to approve.
Second?
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Discussion of possible action to approve the letter of engagement with Bolton and Mank to repair the 6th Street steps.
All right, good evening, everyone. So what's in front of you tonight is a letter of engagement with Bolton and Mank to bring on board a structural engineer to assist with either repairing or replacing the steps on 6th Street that connect basically from the bottom of the hill up to the top towards Prospect Park. In the issue sheet, I attached a couple photos, but during some heavy rain events over the last couple of years, basically the underside of the steps has eroded away, causing them to be unsafe to utilize, and they've been kind of just blocked off for the last year and a half by our staff, just unable to use. So I know a couple of the council members have gotten some phone calls about when are we going to fix them, are you going to fix them, so on and so forth. So got in touch with Bolton and Mank, get a price on how much it would cost to bring them on board to provide some engineering services because it is structural. It is kind of weird though, as you look underneath, there's no footings underneath the steps. So we're thinking that they're pinned into the adjacent retaining wall, so which complicates things even more. But anyways, they gave us a quote back to bring them on board. They would come in, do some further investigating work, possibly recommend either repairing or possibly replacing. In the issue sheet, they kind of gave us an estimate of what it would cost if we just take them out and pour them back in, and it's a large number, $200,000, right? So, you know, this was at Public Works Committee. I think everyone kind of sees it as a valuable asset. They've been there for a long time. So the price that we got from Bolton and Mank was a number not to exceed $21,800. It all depends on how much we utilize them, how much, you know, exploratory work they do, kind of the recommendations. The full $21,800 is to bring them on board to put together plans to replace them. So anyways, it passed Public Works Committee. It's here for your thoughts and opinions. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that and answer any questions that you have because I know it's a large sum of money.
Mike, you said that it's viewed as a community asset by a lot of people. So I'm, you know, frankly, fairly unfamiliar with the steps.
Yeah.
How many feet?
How many feet total?
Yeah. What's the rise on that?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. Question I didn't see coming. So, gosh, they got to be what 180 to 100 steps up from the bottom.
But the total rise footage? Do you know?
The total rise footage, I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, the number of steps.
Probably a couple hundred feet.
Yeah.
150 feet. Yeah.
15 stories, 20 stories?
Yeah, about yeah, it's substantial. I mean, a lot of people.
And are they really utilized?
Well, I haven't received calls on them. I know other council members have.
Yeah.
How many?
I don't know.
I would like to, can I share what,
Yeah.
let me share our Public Works discussion when you're ready.
Sure.
And that, just to give you feedback there.
What happens in the winter?
We close them off.
closed
Yep,
off?
we block them off. Just do it because we don't salt them or maintain them. We don't want to have anybody slipping down them.
How many months are they closed?
They're typically closed, you know, first snowfall, so it all depends, you know, 4 or 5, 6 months, all depends on the weather, right?
All right, Joyce.
Well, I have received calls and heard from people about it, and I know other members of the Public Works Committee had also. And here, let me paint a little picture of what I envision where their steps came from. Hudson started as a river town right down here at the river. But it wasn't long till the beauty of the overlook from Prospect Park became a part of the city. And, they're the first settlers that were ever buried up there. There's a cistern, all of that historical. Well, so how people access that as a viewpoint is they put in stairs partly. And as our Public Works, we kind of, all three of us felt supportive of this idea because we thought it did preserve a piece of old Hudson, but it also is not that that's just important for looks or memorabilia, but that it does still provide that connection from the hill to the downtown. You know, that used to be always called the Hill, the upper part of Hudson. And so, for example, let's say kids who live in the vicinity of Laurel Avenue, Ure Street, Liberty, et cetera, those neighborhoods, the kids want to go downtown to get some ice cream. How do they safely navigate that downtown? Well, if they head to Prospect Park, go down the stairs, there's more accessibility, it's safer. We are definitely marking no pedestrian, no biking on the hill. You know, we rebuilt several years ago 3rd Street Laurel. And it's very narrow. It is not safe. You do occasionally see people riding their bikes and occasionally people walking, but we definitely want to discourage that. So we felt that having the stairs still provided a viable connection and more accessibility. And again, it's a historic part of Hudson, which people would have accessed it to get up to Prospect Park to enjoy the view from there. So that's kind of the background of how we felt, and definitely as committee members, we did get input from residents. That being said, I think this is just to find out really what it does cost. Am I correct, Mr. Moroz?
Yeah, so basically you would be bringing on the consultant to do a little more exploratory work to see how bad it's been undermined and then give us the options to move forward. I'm still hopeful that we can try to, you know, either mud jack or grout underneath or do something to lessen the blow of taking out and do a full replacement at $200,000, put it that way. But we really don't know. Like I said, we haven't, it's kind of just, you know, we can kind of see the surface, but what lies underneath the surface, how far back, did it cut into the retaining wall? And then we can have those discussions from there on. I did find the contours, it's about 45 feet of elevation change. So I was a little off.
Yeah. 15
You know,
stories.
hey, I can tell a good fish story once in a while, right?
Well, I watched your Public Works Committee meeting, and,
course.
you know, I appreciate the fact you brought up the safety. That's always a plus, and yes, getting people off of 3rd Street Hill, walking or biking up and down. But I've heard that we're building a $200,000 stairwell to nowhere. And that's what it kind of sounds like, or looks like at your first thought of this. And then here we are looking for money to finish road projects, and we're spending $200,000 on the stairs that is not used by a whole lot of people. And that's what I struggle with. And I appreciate the safety and the conversations you guys had at your meeting. But it's an expensive aesthetic fix.
I have a question also. So at your meeting, and I watched it too.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you said that it would come out of the stormwater utility. What is the source for that money? Is some of that grant money, or is that all from the city?
Strictly paid by utility users on your bill every quarter.
Oh, okay, so this is from the utility.
Yep, so we use that money.
Sewer.
Yep, so we use it for pond maintenance, we use it for pipe, we use it for washouts, you know, so that's kind of what we utilize those funds for, equipment.
So spending $200,000 on these stairs would take money from the pond rehabilitation? Okay, good to know.
Or slow it up, it's true.
Yeah.
It would come out of the CIP.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a balancing act,
Okay.
but it is, the Public Works staff feels like it was damaged by storm. And for people who can't quite picture it, that's street, what street is that runs down and turns into
Sixth
Walnut?
Street. Oh, 6th Street.
Six
runs
turns into Walnut, which
Yeah.
this is another topic for another day, but I wonder how many people drive down Walnut. You know, could we make that into a pedestrian access at some point and close it to cars? But I don't know that if our rescue and police and fire would appreciate that. But anyway, that's a different topic.
No, I've been up and down the stairs, and not recently, but
It's a good workout.
yeah, it's a good workout. Yeah, and you know, I see the utility of them, especially for the kids and the safety issue. I'll move to approve. I think that it's worth finding out how much it's going to cost us to do it and see if there is a way, because it doesn't look like the stairs themselves are in that bad a shape. It's the stuff
Oh.
underneath.
Right, yeah, basically, and that's why I'm thinking that they're pinned to that adjoining wall, because if, without the footings, you would think that they would just start sloughing away, but they're holding, right? So
Yeah.
they're being held up by something.
Right. So then that would mean that maybe there's a way of just bracing underneath.
I'm crossing my fingers that we can explore an option like
Okay.
that, yeah.
All right, well, I made the motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion's approved. Discussion possible action to purchase SBA compressor and fill station from McQueen in the amount of $49,311.43.
Good evening, Finance Committee, Mr. Mayor. So this piece of equipment is what we utilize to fill our SCBA bottles, we wear in the fires and everything, and our scuba bottles after they're diving. It's an in-station compressor. It goes up 6,000 PSI. It's been slated for replacement. This came from the old station, so this was a piece of equipment that was in the old station. It's 15 years old plus. It was moved up there to the new station. We had a failure earlier this winter with it. It was not building to 6,000 PSI what we needed to go to. We had a technician come in and look at it. They're not able to rectify the problem. It's not a known issue. We can throw a bunch of parts at it and maybe fix it. Being it was already slated for replacement through the 25-26 capital, we just decided to go ahead and move up the replacement schedule of it. We originally had pegged it at 60,000. The project, obviously some of the quotes came back lower than that, so we're looking about $10,000 under what was projected for the cost of the unit.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Any discussion?
What are you doing meanwhile?
We're filling as best we can right now.
Okay.
Luckily, we haven't had any fires lately where we've needed to fill, and so our bottles aren't getting completely filled to the capacity they need. So we're limping along. So it's going to be about 10 weeks before we can get it installed.
Okay. Is there a place that you can use until that comes in?
Yep. If we need to, we can either go to River Falls or Roberts.
Okay,
Yep.
good.
Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion's approved. Discussion possible action on 2025 room tax community subsidies.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, or Mayor and Committee, I guess. By way of background, the City of Hudson charges a 3% room tax on all lodging establishments throughout the year. They are required to those lodging establishments then remit a room tax return to the city on a quarterly basis. And 70% of that money then goes to the Chamber of Commerce. 30% is retained by the city. Historically, what the city has chosen to do with that money is put it back into city tourism and beautification projects as directed by the mayor. Below, or I guess attached in your packet, is a breakdown of the estimated $311,000 that will be incoming during 2025. This is based on historical over the last 3 years and also baking into the equation, I guess, several of one of our room tax establishments that has not paid for the last year, so that's also included in there. In regards to the proposed expenditures, the only large change, I would say, or material change, is the fireworks spend, which I'll note $15,000 is coming out of the general fund by way of grant through Festival Foods. With that, I stand for questions.
So are you saying that donation or grant from Festival Foods is going to keep our spending the same?
Yes, I'm sorry. Actually, spending did go up to $32,000 for fireworks in total.
Which we
So
approved,
$15,000 from the grant, $17,000 proposed from this fund.
Great, so that's a saving. I mean, leaves us more money here to spend or to donate, allocate. Could I have you comment on the estimated expected amount and the difference? I mean, last year showed a pretty strong dollar amount collected.
Yep, so last year was a bit of an anomaly. When we went back and did, I won't call it an audit, but a reconciliation of previous years, we found that there were two of our room tax or our lodging establishments. One had not paid since, I believe, 2020, and the other did not pay at all in 2024. So the large amount you see coming in Q4 of 2024 is an anomaly with that room tax, or that lodging establishment making a catch-up payment.
I see. So it got credited to 2024.
Correct.
Can I ask, Mr. Mayor, I know you put this list together. Is the 70% of the chamber in our ordinance or anything like that, or it's just been a practice that we've done?
It is, and other people can comment, but it is a 70% requirement statute, state statute
It is a
requirement,
state statute thing.
that money goes to some tourist designated organization.
Okay.
And actually, you may want to comment, this could be the city, could actually be the city.
Well, the city could establish its own commission,
Yeah.
yes. But the 70%, when you have room tax, the 70% has to be allocated to a tourism promotion entity. And so the city has contracted effectively with the chamber
Sure.
to serve as that entity, and that's where that 70% comes from. The other 30%, by the way, could go back to your general fund. It's not required specifically to be spent on tourism-related activities. It's my understanding that the city has allocated the other 30% based on the projections to tourism-related expenditures. But under the law, under the state statute, that could go back to your general fund if you wanted.
Thank you. I mean to hog all the questions, but I'm on a roll. So the chamber has a set amount, which seems quite secure for them, but actually it's going to be lower this year. Is that correct? That they estimated in 2025, we're estimating that, like last year was an anomaly of higher.
Correct.
Before, I guess, 2023, they got 222,000. Now,
It's in that ballpark.
yeah,
Yes.
okay. So last year, again, the anomaly
And-
of being higher.
Right.
Yep.
I just didn't want to,
It's an estimated amount.
sure, I get that, and things could change in the economy. And of course, the chamber plans promotions, and they give us regular reports, and they do great work. And I can certainly understand why the state, I mean, we're trying to get more tourism, so that's why we use the room tax dollars. I just wanted to comment and advocate, we have received emails from some longstanding volunteers with the Hudson Hot Air Fair. And I did want to just say publicly that I think they do an outstanding job bringing a tourist activity, lots of visitors to the city in a very unusual time of the year. Cold, we're always anxiously looking at the weather forecast. That's nothing compared to that team of, are they going to be able to lift balloons and so on. But I did want to just make sure and to point out to the public, I'm sure all of us as elected officials know that that is not a chamber event. It is so well run, as is all of the chamber events, that it would seem that, oh, that's part of their activities, but it is a separate group. And I do think they're worthy of financial support from the city. I realize you've already made a plan, and some of it is estimated funds, but again, I just wanted to say that publicly, that I would advocate for them to be included. I know it's hard to increase one and
And you
lower
saw
another.
that there is an increase for them.
Well, they're asking for more, even more than that, I think. So I did just want to, again, recognize their work for the city. Yes, I did. Thank you.
I agree with you, Joy. Yeah, it would be nice if we could find a little more for them, but I'm glad that we're able to increase it some, partially to what they're asking for.
Overall, the many years, the big question was, what in the 30,000 or the 30%, what does it do for us tourism-wise? Obviously, hot air fair, no brainer. That one they bring in.
Right.
Do all of them do that? I guess that's the question we need to ask ourselves.
So let me preface this with, we're going to be, over the course, after this round, we're going to be taking a bigger dive down into what's going on with each of these organizations. We really have not had accountability from any of them. And that's fine. I mean, that's the way it's been. But given the nature of what has happened over the course of the last few years and the funds being limited now significantly, And the fact that we ran in deficits for the last 3 years because of COVID, and obviously also because some of the hotels hadn't paid us, you know, we really need to start looking a little bit closer at how this money is spent. So that's part of the answer. But there are traditional places that that are non-tourist, to your question, that are receiving some subsidy from the city. And, you know, we're, out of this, we're paying for the cemetery, upkeep. Out of this, we're giving money to the Living Independently? What's the facility?
Well, it's the Senior Citizens and the Octagon Historical Society, which is part of it. And I'm not knocking those,
Yeah.
I'm not at all.
Yeah, so are they tourists, are there expenditures here that are not tourist related? Yes, there are.
And they don't have to be tourist related.
No, they don't have to be.
Right?
But much of it is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right, absolutely. I think none of us would want to take money
So,
away from anyone that's listed.
And like I said, we
Unless
haven't,
we
you
had
know,
more.
since I've been mayor, I don't believe we've added anybody to this list.
Okay,
All right, and I also would say that since I've been mayor, I don't believe that we have dropped anybody from the list either.
sure.
It's just something that I inherited and just went along with, okay, this has been the city's position, the previous mayor's positions on these things, and I didn't see any reason to deviate from that.
I think over the years I've been here, the only one we've added was the FIP Center.
Yeah,
That was the only one,
okay,
which draws in multiple people.
sure, yeah, yeah.
Well, and the 3% hasn't changed either,
Right.
well, since it's been established.
And that argument was a tough argument when we had that conversation at the time, and Mary Claire could address, I think, were you president at that time as well? It was not fun. The ownerships of the hotel properties never wanted to increase. Obviously, they're giving their money away. So if we went back to them and asked for more,
Beg your pardon? Could you rephrase that last statement? They're giving their money away? I didn't
they-
understand you.
yeah, because we were self-raising it. We raised it on them at the time.
And then they should raise it to their patrons, right?
Well, correct.
I mean, in my experience, I would be in favor of raising our room tax dollars. My experience is often if I'm checking out from a hotel, it's like, I thought it was X dollars a night, and suddenly there's $85 more or whatever it is tagged on. It's like, oh, that's their room tax. A lot of times, I don't know that precludes, I mean, you're in the hotel industry, you know the business. I don't think people don't stay somewhere because of the room tax. And I
No,
don't- I
and
wouldn't
ours is very cheap.
Ours is extremely
I
cheap.
don't wanna get into
You-
that.
We don't, and that's
Yeah,
not,
I think it would be, I think this is a discussion that we should have.
Another
I should
time.
think that it would be a good idea to get some comparative information on what the other area cities are charging for room tax.
I agree, maybe we can have that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting to look at that. I certainly don't want to harm our hotel industry.
No.
At all.
No, not at all.
So,
But, I mean, it is a pass-through where they pass it on to the
exactly.
customers, and it's being used for tourism, which, you know, the customers are usually tourists, so,
Right, bring more,
yeah.
fill their beds
Mm-hmm.
more often.
We have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second,
We have a motion and a second to approve. Any further discussion?
I do, yeah, I do want to go through these at some point
No.
yeah.
and drill down on
Well, that's, yeah,
what you said.
yeah. Anybody else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. I don't have anything. Anybody?
No. Move to adjourn.
Second,
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. We stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.